swing and a drive. Right field and deep. Back goes Aquino. It's got a chance. Gone. Get out the tape measure. Long gone.
Fly the W!
Cubs fans, it's time to fly the W with Dustin Rhodes and Paul Crawley-Jean.
All right, Crawley, this is the Fly the W podcast, part of the Blue Wire Network, episode 353. The Cubs bats have come alive in Philadelphia. Don't forget to listen, download, subscribe, review the podcast. That's most important. Follow on the socials. You can check me out, Mully and on X.
And you can follow me at Crawley's Cubs on X, Blue Sky and TikTok, and Crawley's Clubhouse on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Threads. You can email us at crawleysclubhouse@gmail.com. Dustin, we made our predictions for the Cubs-Phillies series after a disappointing weekend at Wrigley versus the Pirates. Here's how we felt a few days ago.
All right, Crawley, it's time to make predictions on Phillies and Cubs.
All righty. So if I'm taking a look right here at Phillies versus Cubs, Sanchez versus Assad. I hate to do this to Javier Assad. I like Chris Sanchez and the Phillies taking game one. I have the Phillies taking game two, and I have the Cubs. I kind of feeling they're going to win game three. That's the way I go. I got Phillies taking 2 out of 3 at home.
Yeah, I'm with you, Crawley. This is a don't get swept, please. Please don't.
It wasn't too bad of a prediction. I kind of thought that the Cubs would win game 3. I thought they would lose game 1 and 2. It kind of looked like it might go that way, right?
Yeah, it worked out. Things, they didn't get swept, but boy, after that first game, I thought they might get swept. But the bats came alive, Crawley. That's the headline of this episode. And what I really liked, and we're going to go through each and every game, but what I really liked was the fact that they got to a couple of left-handed starters, something that hasn't been exactly the best thing the Cubs have done in a while. So that was really good news.
Yeah, you're talking about game 1. That was Christopher Sanchez versus Javier Assad. And look, Christopher Sanchez is a really, really good pitcher. Like I said, the Cubs had to go through a buzzsaw there. You saw 3 of their best right there. And the Cubs are going to take on the Phillies next week at Wrigley Field. I hate that, but that's what they're going to do. But if you look at the box score, just look at the box score game 1. This shows you how bad it is. The Phillies scored in 6 out of the 8 innings. Their offense was at bat. So that was really, really brutal. But you also saw, and we talked about this, and it's going to be a big part of this series, is defense. The Phillies committed 3 errors. Cubs commit 1 error, but the Cubs lose 13-7. But Dustin, this was a tale of 2 games, right? The first 4.5 innings when this looked like a game that the Cubs could take. And then there was the last 4 innings where the Phillies blew the Cubs out of the water, and the Cubs scored some runs in garbage time and made it look closer than the game actually was. It looked a lot worse for a long time, but let's get the first half of the game out of the way. Bottom of the first, 1 out, former Cub Kyle Schwarber hits a solo home run. Dustin, this pitch by Assad was not bad. I'm just going to kind of throw that out there. I mean, if you're looking at it, the first home run, it was the classic swing on your knees. You could see that the ball is below the strike zone where that ball landed. And you could see him down on one knee, Kyle Schwarber. That is a strong man hitting a home run that you're not going to get mad at Javier Assad on that one. You put it where you didn't think he could hit it, and somehow he got down and golfed it. I mean, that happens,
he golfed
right?
it. He golfed it out of there. Yep. That happens. He golfed it out of there. You're totally right.
Now the Phillies would add another run in the second. Then 2-out RBI single by JT on a 2-out RBI single by JT Realmuto. So the Cubs are down 2-0. Bottom of the third, who else but Kyle Schwarber with a runner on first. This one, we can blame Assad all we want because this was not good. The second home run right here, Dustin, look where that is. That is middle in his happy zone. that's going out 93 miles an hour. No, that he doesn't need to go. That's 417 feet that Assad gave up at home runs on that one. Now, Dustin, I thought of you immediately when I saw this on the social medias and all this stuff. This is Kyle Schwarber on facing the Cubs.
It's still weird for you to play the Cubs, or has it been long enough that you're kind of past it?
It's
now?
been long enough. Obviously, I've had a lot of great memories there, and that's where I started my career. Run a World Series there. Heck, 10 years now since it's the 10-year reunion tour. You look at Rossi and Rizzo doing their podcast, but you got to go on that. But that's where it all started for me. And I always say that I was lucky enough to come up with a lot of great people, in that organization, who taught me how to be a big leaguer and taught me how to win and taught me how to care about winning and care about the right things. And it's kind of like the foundation aspect of it. So obviously, a lot of great memories, a great fan base over there too, a lot of appreciation for them. But obviously now where I'm at, I love where I'm at, and we're looking to keep adding on here.
Most home runs in MLB since 2021. Aaron Judge, 255. Shohei Ohtani, 238. Kyle Schwarber, 225. He'll always be the one that got away, right, Dustin?
Always will be the one that got away. I mean, had an interesting discussion on the radio about this, and I'll take a guess where you're going to go, but Lou Brock, Crawley, obviously way before our time, right? But we still like our Cubs. Obviously, it's something that we talk about. It's something that we like to listen to. But for me, Greg Maddux and Kyle Schwarber are kind of neck and neck. And, Maddux now is so far removed, and it was what it was at the time. There's no reason. Do you know some story that I don't? I mean, why was Kyle Schwarber let go for nothing? Was it because of the type of game he has in game number 3? But we all forget about what he did in the game we just talked about. It's something that if you could ever, sports wishes out of the genie bottle. Okay. If I could have a beer with Jed and Theo and get an honest answer that I swear I will never tell anybody, I want them to explain how they let that guy out the door. They knew the DH was coming. That was not a big surprise.
I just really think that it came back to that broken offense that Theo talked about. You had a lot of guys and that kind of had the same thing, a lot of swing and miss in their game. And at that point in time,
he has that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so you get into a short series in the postseason or something like that, and you got a bunch of guys that are all swinging and missing. That's tricky, right? You got to have a balanced offense. And that's what they had in 2016. That's what they had in 2017. And don't forget, I think hindsight's 2020. I mean, I'm not saying that Schwarber wasn't good back then, but he's not the Kyle Schwarber that we know now. Right.
No, he's different. He's changed his body. There's no doubt about that. Maybe that was better. A thing. Maybe he drank too much. Maybe he ate too much. I'm not saying he's an alcoholic or anything, but I'm just saying, maybe I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to get a reason why they would have let that guy walk out the door.
You remember in 2017,
you
remember in 2017, they sent him back to Iowa. I mean, he was struggling mightily. It's not, like I said, I think it's hindsight. It is good. I mean, it wasn't like he was Greg Maddux that just won the Cy Young Award, right? It wasn't that yet. He wasn't that guy yet. But yeah, it is frustrating, that out of all the guys, he was the one that actually ended up having a good post Cubs career, but it is what it is. And honestly, really,
so you're not that upset about it. You're not as upset about it as I am, huh? You're over it. It is what it is, and you're moving on. You're looking forward, not backward.
I just think that if you look back at the time schedule, I mean, it was devastating because I think right around that time they traded like Yu Darvish, Theo left, not long after that. And then even Lenny Casper left. I mean, it was devastating at the time, but it's because we love those guys so much, those World Series guys. And Schwarber had one of the best stories, his knees blown out. He misses the whole season and then he comes back. And it's one of the funniest stories they tell in the Lovable Reunion podcast where, Kyle Schwarber is going up to David Ross and he tells him, hey, if this guy throws me a cutter, I'm knocking the shit out of this ball. Like, it was just one of those things that he was just And he was the guy that he got that first hit that ended up scoring what would be the go-ahead run in that game. Now, but again, I'm not going to sit there and just kind of say, oh, well, this happened, that happened. I don't know. Like, I sit there and I look at it, and it is what it is. We can all sit there now, but I also know people that were pissed that Kyle Schwarber would sit there with a 153 average, or he would strike out 210 plus times a year. Again, he's a better player now than he was when he left, and maybe he needed that, Dustin. Maybe he needed that change of scenery. I don't know, but I'm not sitting here still getting upset about it. Not too much.
No, I need a sip of whatever you're having because I still am, Crowley.
Yeah, I tried to get you to listen to that Madden thing, and hopefully that would chill you out a little bit.
I did listen to it. I told you I listened to almost all of it.
Well, it didn't go good for Assad at all. Here's what Counsell had to say about Javi.
Yeah, I mean, I just don't think he got his sinker going and didn't execute with his fastball. There was balls in the zone, but he needs to get him to good places, and he didn't get the fastball and the sinker to good places.
As far as the Cubs offense is concerned, Christopher Sanchez really is a good pitcher. The Cubs actually were able to grind out at bats. I thought the at bats were good, but they struggled to get the clutch hit. Sanchez went 6 innings through 96 pitches, gave up 6 hits and 3 walks. So Dustin, that's 11 base runners, but only gave up 2 home runs to a 2-run home run to Dansby Swanson. He struck out 8 Cubs. First inning, the Cubs had a base runner on with 1 out. Seiya hits into a double play. Second inning, Cubs load the bases with 1 out. PCA strikes out, which you cannot do with the bases loaded and one.
You cannot do that.
Matt Shaw grounds out. Third inning, Bregman 1 out walk. Cubs can't do anything. Dansby hits that home run in the 4th. Top of the 5th, 2 on, 1 out. Ian Happ hits into a double play. But that's what Sanchez does. He gets a lot of balls on the ground. And so after 5.5 innings, it's only a 4-2 game. It looks like the Cubs are going to try to fight their way back in it. Now we get to the second half, bottom of the 5th. It all falls completely apart for Assad. Gave up 2 homers to Schwarber. He pitches around him, right? He's not going to face Schwarber again. I'm not going to do that. Leadoff walk. Then he goes single, double, sac fly, single, and just like that, Javier Assad's night is done. Jacob Webb finished the inning. Assad would go 4 1/3 on 9 runs, on 11 hits, 2 walks, 3 Ks. Dustin, I looked at every single game Javier Assad has pitched since his MLB debut in 2022. There was only one other game in which he gave up more than 4 runs in his time in the league. Any guesses which team lit him up that time?
No, based on what we're talking about right now, the Phillies.
September 25th, 2024 versus the Phillies. 8 runs, 8 hits, 4 1/3 innings. And it was in Philly. So I think next time the Cubs come to Philly, maybe Javier Assad just doesn't pitch that one. I don't know. The Cubs had a 5-run inning in the 8th off reliever Seth Johnson, who was called up that day from AAA. Johnson would come into the game in the 7th, but he lost his control in the 8th. Mo Baller would hit a leadoff, Ian Happ would hit a leadoff double. Mo Baller would hit an RBI single. Walk hit by pitch. PCA would hit an RBI single. 2 runs would score on a throwing error by Brandon Marsh. Another would score on Matt Shaw reaching on another error, second of the inning for the Phillies. Cubs would score the 5th run on a Seiya Suzuki single. And that would be it for Johnson, who would be sent back to the minors the next day. So it was a quick 24-hour trip for him. He didn't last long. But Dustin, even though this was garbage time, the Cubs were grinding out at bats, and the guys that were getting hits have been guys that have been struggling, like Seiya Suzuki, like PCA, like Ian Happ. So, it's interesting because Matt Shaw, after they had that big, a little offensive push in that game, here's what Shaw said.
I feel like, kind of towards the end of the game 2 days ago, we kind of started getting rolling a little bit. I think it kind of gave us some momentum coming into yesterday and today, and yeah, the boys are feeling really good.
So even though they lost that game, they scored 7 runs on 11 hits. And like I said, I feel like it kind of got guys going. The other good thing is they only used 3 pitchers, Javier Assad, Jacob Webb, and Charlie Barnes, who was called up on Sunday. And then he gave up 4 runs in 3 innings and was optioned back to Iowa the next day. Dustin, I mentioned this the other day. My friend Sam Bernero took the picture. Hopefully next time he comes up, he's got a nicer looking shirt. I'm telling you, this guy looks like he's the host of Blues Clues right here. I don't know. He's got to wear something a little bit better. Give me a call, Charlie. I'm not Mr. Fashionista, but I can try to help. So that takes us to game 2, Dustin. And we get a little surprise, a little mix up here by Craig Counsell. The scheduled starters were Aaron Nola versus Colin Ray. And we find out after game 1 that Craig Counsell is going to decide to use rookie Riley Martin as an opener. So going with the lefty opener because you got Trey Turner, who bats righty, and then the two lefty boppers in Schwarber and Bryce Harper. How did it work out? Martin got out of the first without allowing a base runner, throwing just 6 pitches. Dustin, if that didn't work out, that would have been bad. But Martin has shown he doesn't seem like it's bothering him that much. Seems like he belongs here. And I thought it was a really efficient way to start. And to me, it was I was really impressed with what he did. And so it worked. The opener worked.
It worked, but I saw it as cowardice. I saw it as absolutely cowardice to do that. That is absolute crap on a stick. Oh, we're afraid of everybody. I mean, why did you even play the game if that's how you're going to act? It worked, but then why didn't he go 2 innings? Because then as we're going through this game, what happens to Colin Ray in the very first inning?
So again, you don't want Ray to face the lefties 3 times. So you're taking 1 time out of that. And so what happens is Ray comes in the second, he gets the first out, gives up 2 singles, gets the second out, but then Mundo Sosa crushes one 442 feet, and the Cubs are in a hole once again. But I mean, you understand the strategy, though. You get why they were doing it. I mean, would they do? I don't know. I'm Dustin. This team was reeling. They lost 3 in a row. They couldn't afford to fall behind, and yes, they ended up falling behind anyway. But it wasn't from the guys that you expected. I don't know. It worked. I felt it worked out strategy-wise. Top of the third, the Cubs begin chipping away at the lead. PCA doubles, moves to third on a Dansby ground out, scores on a Nico single. Cubs are on the board. Michael Busch back in the lineup after 2 days off singles. Nico tries to go from first to third, but was thrown out on an amazing dart by Adolis Garcia. That was sick. With 2 outs, Alex Bregman singles, runners at first and second free and Happ. Ian would nearly homer. It hit off the top of the padding on the left field wall. It was actually challenged. They thought it might have been a home run. It's a double. Busch comes around to score. Cubs are trailing 3-2. Cubs would tie it in the 5th on a pair of walks and an RBI single by Alex Bregman. He's getting a little bit warmed up here. That would be the last inning of work of Aaron Nola. Cubs once again grinding, right? They made him throw 87 stressful pitches in 5 innings of work, scored 3 runs on 8 hits. So it wasn't like Dustin, he had, I don't know. It wasn't just about, that he was just breezing through these innings 1, 2, 3. He was struggling to get out of these. I thought that the Cubs really did a good job there. Now, on the last podcast or in the tail of the tape, we mentioned the Phillies had the 29th worst defense in baseball, right? They had the 3 errors the night before. And they would make a key error in this game that would blow open the game for the Cubs offense. With 2 on, 1 out, Dansby Swanson hits one in the 6th inning to relief pitcher Tim Meza. Meza's throw goes off the glove of second baseman Bryson Stott. Dustin, that could have been an inning-ending double play. Now, instead, it's bases loaded, 1 out for Nico Horner. And what do we say when a team makes an error? Make them pay.
Make them pay.
Now you got Nico Horner with the bases loaded, and make him pay. He does. He hits a single to center, 2-run score. Cubs take a 5-3 lead. Michael Busch would walk. Meza's day is done. Former Cub Brad Keller comes in. Alex Bregman singles to score 2 more runs. Cubs up 7-3. But Dustin, 4 runs would come around to score after that error. And how about this? After that hit by Nico, how about this one right here? This is from Marquee. Highest batting average with runner in scoring position, Cubs since 1974. You have Derek Lee, 308, Aramis Ramirez, 311, Mark Grace, 315, Nico Horner, 316. So he has a higher batting average. I mean, when you think about Gracie and Ramirez and Lee, I mean, those are 3 of the most clutch guys you could imagine in the post-2000 Cubs, or shoot, even from the 80s. And so to see Nico above all those guys, I mean, that just tells you something right there.
Yeah, it really does. They fought really hard. It would have been easy for them to have genuflected, as Craig Counsell did ahead of that game, so they didn't follow the leader's idea of being scared and too scared to do the job.
Well, hey, say what you want. After that 3-run homer to Edmundo Sosa, Colin Ray settles down. He sits down 16 of the last 17 hitters he faced. Gave up 3 runs on 4 hits in 6 innings of work, no walks, 5 Ks. Phillies would score 1 run in the 8th before Carson Kelly put the nail in the coffin with a 3-run homer to make it a 10-4 game. Dustin, you take a look again, 7 innings, 4 hits, 3 runs, 6 strikeouts, no walks. I mean, it worked. Whether you like it or not, it worked. That's all I'm saying.
It worked.
You may not like it, but hey, I was impressed with it. The other thing I was impressed with, Dustin, in this game is when you take a look at the box score, everybody's contributing. Horner, 3 RBIs. Bregman, 3 RBIs.
Great point, Crawley.
Carson
great
Kelly, 3 RBIs. Everybody up and down in the lineup. Everybody that was an everyday player had his hit except for Dansby Swanson. And even Dansby had 2 walks. It's not like they weren't getting on base. So you just had base runners all over the place on that. So that was a fun game. And now, Dustin, that takes us to game 3, Jesus Luzardo versus Shota Imanaga, rubber game of the series. Jesus Luzardo had the Cubs number, and the first batter of the game, Trey Turner, hits a leadoff home run and off Shota Imanaga. Cubs are down 1-0. Be honest, were you getting ready to turn the TV off at that point?
Yes, I was like, what is going on? Did you notice like the shot they had of Craig Counsell with his head just down, straight down right after it happened?
I'm just telling you, I'm sitting there, I'm watching this and I'm going, oh boy, is this the game where, because, we talked about it. Shota had only given up 1 home run previously to Joey Weimer. And that was a big issue last season, what was going to happen. But much like Colin Ray the night before, after the home run, Shota settles in. He gives up 1 more hit in the first inning and then gave up a double in the 4th and a walk in the 6th. So after the first inning, the Phillies only had 2 base runners. That's it. Shota would pitch 6 innings, give up 1 run on 3 hits, walk 1, a career high 11 strikeouts. And Dustin, how about this fact right here? He induced 26 whiffs, most in MLB in 1 game this season, meaning 26 times the Phillies swung and got nothing. Yeah. His 37.8% strikeout rate leads MLB, 31 strikeouts in 2026, tied most by the Cubs left-handed pitcher through 4 appearances since 1901. I mean, Dustin, that was a dominant performance by Seiya.
Really good. Really, really good. No, it was great. It was absolutely great. What, tied a career best with the 11 Ks?
Yeah, I mean, the guy is just ridiculous right now. And he is just, to me, just his fastball is better. It's harder. It's moving up. His splitter is going down. And then he's always going north-south, but I see him going more east-west. He looks like a more complete pitcher. So I was impressed with what he did. Now, the Cubs offense is going to come to life in the top of the 3rd, and this one would be the Matt Shaw, Nico Horner show. Top of the 3rd, Matty Shaw doubles, Nico singles, ties the game at 1. Alex Bregman would then walk, and Counsell would call for a double steal. How about another error, Dustin? JT Realmuto's throw goes in the outfield. Cubs take a 2-1 lead on the air, and then Bregman scores on a wild pitch. It's not an error, but it's more bad defense. 3-1 game, right? Top of the 5th, once again, Matty Shaw doubles. And what do you think happens with Nico Horner? Not a double. He homers, his 2nd of the season. Cubs have a 5-1 lead. Top of the 6th, 1 out. Luzardo loads the bases. Now I'm thinking this guy's cooked. And Shaw already has 3 doubles against him in the game. And I'm saying there's no way they're going to let him pitch to Shaw, right? He's already doubled twice. I'm sorry, he's doubled twice at this point. And I'm like, there's no way they're going to let him face Shaw. What do? They let him face Shaw. He doubles again. 2 more runs scored, 7-1. Luzardo's night is over. In comes Kyle Backus to face Nico Horner with runners at 2nd and 3rd. He does it again. He drives in 2 more runs, 9-1. The Cubs would add 2 more runs to their total on this one, and that would make it an 11-1 game, Dustin. How about this? How about this for Matty Shaw? Youngest Cubs player since 1901 with 3 doubles in a game. The youngest, Davey Martinez, the eventual bench coach for the world's champion Cubs. Scott Thompson, 1978. Anthony Rizzo in 2013. Phil Cavarretta, who was a World Series hero for the Cubs in the 1945 series, even though they didn't win. And Matt Shaw, at 24 years old, 160 days, rounds out that list. And Dustin, I mean, this is a guy that's not even getting every day at bats. You don't even know where he's going to be in the lineup. And that's what blows me away about this, is that He's consistently just, he's hitting the ball, and you got to find a place where this guy can hit. And it was just super impressive. And then how about this as Nico as a leadoff hitter? Look at this, Dustin. These numbers: 365 batting average, 431 OBP, 7 extra base hits. He has 16 RBIs. His 14 RBIs from the leadoff position is tied with James Wood, who's a slugger from the Nationals. I mean, this is what Craig had to say about Nico leading off.
I think, to me, that's something that's kind of, you see it already, and it's prompted, frankly, me to move him to leadoff hole and leave him there. And he's kind of the engine that makes us go right now, and he's doing a really good job offensively. And like you said, it's kind of a continuation of what we saw at the end of last year.
That sounds like Joe Madden? You go, we go.
It sure does.
I mean, isn't that what we talked about though? I always wanted Nico either at 1 or 2. That's where he belongs. And I'm finally glad that they're just leaving him there. And he is as close as you have to a prototypical leadoff hitter. He doesn't get on base. He doesn't do the walk thing. But if you're hitting 300, you don't need to do the walk thing. It's same as Luis Arias? You know what I mean? If you can get on base at a 300 clip, you don't need to see 20 pitches. Just get on base and do it. But Dustin, I didn't have a lot of faith that the Cubs would win this series because of how bad the Cubs do against the Phillies. But look at this offense. Last time the Cubs scored double digits in consecutive games against the Phillies was June 3rd and 4th, 1958 at Wrigley Field. 12 and 11 runs. The last time the Cubs scored double digits in consecutive game against the Phillies in Philadelphia was 1938 at the Baker Bowl. You remember the Baker Bowl?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't remember that one. But that's the thing. But Dustin, here is what Alex Bregman had to say. And remember, I told everybody on the podcast, I think it was a couple podcasts ago, stop freaking out. Okay? Stop. Okay? And this is what Bregman had to say about the offense.
Well, I think it's a mature group, and obviously I don't think anyone's really felt like they're at the top of their game really to start the season, but it's a bunch of guys who know how to compete and know how to get the most out of it, even when they're not feeling good. So I feel like we'll get this thing rolling, and we'll get guys locked in and be right where we need to be.
Dustin, I'm going to say it again. This is not football. If you treat baseball like football, you will give yourself a stroke. It's not healthy. It's not good. Stick with what Joe Madden says. Celebrate a victory for 30 minutes, mourn a defeat for 30 minutes, and move on. The other thing I try to tell people is that there is what we call the rule of nines. How many games in a season, Dustin?
162, right?
162. Divide that in half, you get 81.
81, yeah.
And then you divide 81 by 9, you get 9, right?
Mm-hmm.
If you do this, Dustin, there are 18 9-game segments. 18. Just look at how they are in 9 games. What are they at right now? What's their record? I can tell you, it's 9-9. They're at 500. They're a 500 team. Does that mean that they're going to stay a 500 team? No, but it just means they're an okay team through the first half. And when you consider how bad they've played and they're a 500 team, this is not going to happen. These guys are going to hit. Michael Busch is going to come out of this. You saw it. And I don't know if this means, based on this series, everyone's like, oh, the same people that were telling me it's over, they suck, sell everything a week ago said to me now, here we go, we're off and running. No, it's one series. They played good in Philly. I don't know what's going to happen this weekend against the Mets. We'll get to it. But just easy, one at a time, kind of look at patterns, break things down. This is a good team, Dustin, and they're not done. That's all I'm going to tell you is that there's a lot more talent to this team. I'm not upset for Craig doing the opener. I don't think Ian Happ is the worst player to ever play on the Cubs. I don't think PCA should go to AAA. That kind of stuff is just ridiculous talk. And, again, if you want to fan that way. I'm just telling you from my standpoint, I'm going to watch this as a baseball fan and just kind of take it easy and understand that it's a marathon. And sometimes you get off to a killer start. Last year, the Cubs remember that? How they were beating the Dodgers, the bad Dodgers? The Cubs made them look like chumps. They went on that West Coast road trip and destroyed it. April and May, the Cubs were unstoppable. And then that didn't continue, Dustin. They came down to earth. Other times, teams come at the end. They're like racehorses, when we talk about Teams like the Phillies last year didn't start out good and then finish strong. Sometimes your best baseball is later on in the season, sometimes in the middle. I don't know. It's very rare for a team like the 2016 Cubs. They had like a little 2 or 3 week dip in July, but that is not normal, Dustin. That is, you enjoy that when you get it because it doesn't happen often. Let's see how this plays out before we start making any grand declarations before we've even hit 20 games played.
You are listening to the Fly the W podcast, proud to be part of the Blue Wire Network. Don't forget to listen, download, review, subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. 5-star review, we'll take it. You can email us, crawleysclubhouse@gmail.com. And don't forget, you can watch on Crawley's Clubhouse YouTube page. In this segment, we are going to be talking about the Cubs and the Mets at Wrigley Field. We got pitching matchups, off-season moves, and players that are hot and players that are not.
Dustin, last season, the Mets opened with a 45-24 record through June 12th, best in MLB at that time, and the second most wins through the first 70 games. Hey, doesn't this sound familiar? But what happens? They had 96.2% odds to make the playoffs, and the team collapsed. They finished 38-55 the rest of the way. They had 3 separate losing streaks of 7 or more games. They finished with a record of 83-79, second in the NL East, 13 games behind the Phillies. They became only the 3rd team in a wild card era to start 45-24 or better and still miss the postseason. So keep that in mind. Last season, the Mets took the season series against the Cubs 4-2. They took 2 of 3 at Citi Field in May and took 2 of 3 at Wrigley at the end of the season. And the reason I remember that end of the season series, that was when Shota got absolutely demolished by the Mets. And I came on this podcast and said, he cannot start a playoff game. And God, just to think how much he's turned it around since then. The Mets are going to Steve Cohen the offseason, right? You take a look, they got Bo Bichette from Toronto. How about trading to get Freddie Peralta? And then they made a trade to get Louis Bob, right? Louis Bob from the South Side, Luis Robert Jr. They got Marcus Semien. They signed Devin Williams to a 3-year deal. They got Jorge Polanco on a 2-year deal. They're always doing good things. But Dustin, let's take a look at the standings in the NL East. They're in the basement. So if you want to panic, the Mets with their big giant payroll are 7-12. They are on a 9-game losing streak, Dustin. So they are last, and they're 5 games behind the Braves for first place in the NL East. While the Cubs, as we talked about earlier, they're in last place as well, 9-9, but they are only 2 games back of the Pittsburgh Pirates, who have gone 6-4. The Cardinals and Reds and Pirates are all 6-4. The Brewers are 3-7, and the Cubs are 5-5. So, like I said, a lot of moving on here. Now, the Mets have been in a free fall, Dustin, in April. After beating the Giants in the first series in April, they've lost 3 straight series, losing 2 of 3 to the Diamondbacks. They got swept by the A's, Dustin, the Athletics. I don't even know where they're playing. They're the Athletics. They lost 3 in a row, and they just got swept by the Dodgers. So, Dustin, sometimes it's just when you play a team, it looks like the Cubs are catching the Mets at the right time. However, as we've been talking about, the Cubs bats came alive in Philly, but in the month of April, they've been alternating series wins and losses, which is why they're at 500. They started April losing a series to the Guardians. They beat the Rays in Tampa, lost to the Pirates in Wrigley, and now they've beat the Phillies. So hopefully that trend breaks. The Cubs have not won 2 series in a row just yet. And so that to me is the next step that this team has to take if they want to get any good. They have to be able to, start putting together series wins. And Dustin, I know you've talked about it as far as you're talking about wins at home. They haven't won, obviously, 2 series in a row, and they haven't won 2 series at home. So we'll kind of see what happens here.
He is really heating up.
Ooh, you know what that means? Hot and not. This is for the last 2 weeks, Dustin. And taking a look at this right here, I'm looking at players that are hitting 300 or more for their teams over the last week. And the people I'm looking at everyday players. But everyday players, Alex Bregman, 9 for his last 26 with 6 RBIs, slashing 346, 400, 346. How about Nico Horner, 9 for his last 29 with the home run and 9 RBIs, slashing 310, 333, 448. And Dansby Swanson, 6 for 20 with 3 home runs and 6 RBIs, slashing 300, 481, 750. Now, Dustin, that doesn't include guys that are hitting over 300 that aren't getting every day at bats. Moises Ballesteros is hitting 636 in 11 at bats this last week. Carson Kelly, 462, and Michael Conforto, 333, but that's only 6 at bats. But the Cubs have a lot of guys that are starting to hit, Dustin. And so there's a big difference than where we were last week. For the Mets, they are on the opposite end, Dustin. They only have one everyday player hitting over 300. They don't have any hitting over 300 everyday players. Francisco Alvarez is the closest. He's got 14 at bats. He's hitting 286, 444, 500, 1 home run, 1 RBI. But this team has no offense right now, Dustin.
No, none at all. It's as tough as it's been off and on to be a Cub fan. Boy, it's got to be tough to be a fan of them.
When I take a look at cold, the only guy that's cold on the Cubs, these are guys hitting below the Mendoza line. Matt Shaw, 3 for his last 14, but 2 RBI. He had 3 doubles the other day, slashing 214, 267, 429. And Michael Busch still struggling, but showing signs of life. 3 for his last 18, but he's slashing 167, 250, 167. So only 2 guys, Dustin, below that Mendoza line. But when we look on the other end at the Mets, they have, out of everyday players, 1, 2, 3, 4 players that are hitting under 218. In fact, they're all hitting under 200. Marcus Simeon's the best in that group at 150. So, I mean, this team is struggling. Tyrone Taylor struggling. Jorge Polanco struggling. Luis Roberts struggling. Brett Beatty struggling. This is a team that if the Cubs pitching can be what it normally has been, should be able to take care of business.
Well, they really should. They're built to do it, right? On paper anyway.
Well, as far as the pitching, you don't expect the offense to be, or the offense of the Mets to be as bad as it is. But if we take a look at the injury report, the Mets don't have a lot of injuries, but the one that they have is big. We will not see Juan Soto in this series. That's okay. Eligible.
I'm okay. I'm okay with that, Crawley.
Chicken? Are you a chicken now?
No.
He is eligible to return, but they are going to wait till they're done with the series of the Cubs and they come back to New York. So I am also fine with not having to see Juan Soto. The Cubs injury report, and we're going to talk about this more in segment 3, is an absolute train wreck. Absolute train wreck right now. But you could see, obviously, all these guys on the IL, and they're all pretty much pitchers. Not really position players other than Tyler Austin, who never had an at-bat with the Cubs. Jordan Wicks, Matt Boyd, Phil Maton, Hunter Harvey, Ethan Roberts, Cade Horton, Porter Hodge, Justin Steele, Shelby Miller. My God, Dustin, that is not bueno. No bueno there. That's who we got injury-wise right now. And again, the injuries for the Cubs, again, that may be something that really affects us later.
Wheel of the tape.
April 1st to April 16th is the time frame we're looking at. Batting average, we just talked about it. The Cubs have that easily. They really moved their batting average up. They're up to 258, 4th in baseball, while the Mets are 217th, 24th in baseball. Slug, the Cubs are 11th at 396. The Mets are 324 at 28th. Runners at scoring position, the Cubs up that really well, 272. That's 10th in baseball, while the Mets are 242, 19th. So again, by offense, it should all looks like it should go to the Cubs. Even pitching, starting pitching ERA, the Cubs are 361 over the last couple of weeks, 10th in baseball, while the Mets are 408. They are 18th. Relief pitching, Dustin, and again, this is why I'm nervous, because this time period that we're talking about is since April 1st. They've lost a lot of relievers and a lot of right-handed relievers. We're going to hear Craig talk about that, but there's going to have to be lefties that have to get righties out, which may not be their specialty, but it's basically warm bodies at this point for the Cubs bullpen. The Cubs bullpen, it has the advantage in WHIP, 123, which is 10th in baseball. versus the Mets 129, which is 12th in baseball. When we talk about fielding, defensive run saves, the Cubs are 4th in baseball with 10. The Mets are right behind there, 6th with 9 defensive run saves, but something to keep an eye out. Francisco Lindor's kind of had a really funky start to his season, especially at shortstop. So just something to kind of keep an eye on as you're watching the series.
Yes, indeed. No doubt about that. It's going to be an interesting one. I'm really excited about this one. The weather should be at Wrigley, but Friday is going to be some good weather. We'll wait and see. We'll wait and see. Are you heading out at all, Crawley?
I will be there Saturday, but when we look at the matchups, you'll see why I'm not that excited. I will be Saturday. But yeah, the weather's going to drop 20 degrees again. So another game where I'm wearing
Friday's supposed to be nice though. Friday's supposed to be nice.
Work.
Right?
I'm going to work.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Friday 120. You're right.
Oh, you're almost done. You're almost done.
You got Kodai Senga versus Edward Cabrera, which should be a good pitching matchup. Kodai Senga, though, is 0-2 with a 7.07 ERA to start this out. 19 strikeouts and 14 innings pitched against the Cardinals on 331. He got the loss, 2 runs, 4 hits, 3 walks, 9 Ks in 6 innings. On April 5th against San Fran, he got no decision, 2 runs on 5 hits, 2 walks, 7 Ks, and 5 2/3 innings. But he got shelled in his last start against the A's, gave up 7 runs on 8 hits, 2 walks, 3 Ks, Dustin. He did not make it out of the 3rd inning. So let's see if we can catch him while he's on the ropes. Kodai is 1-1 lifetime against the Cubs in 2 starts with a 4.09 ERA. The Cubs slash 214, 312, 321 against Senga, but that's very limited at bats. Kodai was injured most of 2024, Kodai was injured most of 2025, so they didn't really face him that much. Ian Happ is 2 for 6 against Kodai, Dansby 1 for 6, and Nico 1 for 5. So I would say that, it's really hard to get that, but Kodai features a 4-seam fastball, that ghost forkball that disappears, a cutter, and a sweeper. Toe in the rubber for the Northsiders. Edward Cabrera is 1-0 with a 1.62 ERA in 3 starts, 13 strikeouts, 16 2/3 inning. On 330 versus the Angels, he got the win. Gave up 1 hit in 6 innings, 1 walk, 5 Ks. His next start on April 5th was okay against the Guardians. He got a no decision, 5 2/3 innings, gave up no runs on 1 hit, but he had 3 walks and 4 Ks. He had a little bit of trouble on 4-11 against the Pirates. I was at that game. He gave up 3 runs on 8 hits, 3 walks, 4 Ks in 5 innings, but there were a lot of stressful innings. Cabrera is 2-2 with a 5.09 ERA in 10 starts against the Mets. Cabrera was 1-0 with a 5 ERA against the Mets last season. He gave up 5 earned runs in 9 innings. The Mets slash 289, 396, 444 against Cabrera. Francisco Lindor is 3 for 18 against him. You know that Cabrera prominently features that changeup. That's his bread and butter pitch. And then he plays off that 4-seam fastball, curveball, and sinker. So hopefully he can get that back in line and cut down on the walks and really just be efficient with his pitches on Friday. Saturday, another one. Yeah, Saturday 120. Freddie Peralta versus Jamison Tyone. Sometimes, Dustin, you go to a game and you just don't get the pitching matchup you're looking for. The reason I'm going to that game, bobblehead number 2, the first ever Ron Santo as a player bobblehead. They had the statue replica bobblehead, but this is the first Ron Santo. I think it's going to be a wild one to try to get that bobblehead. Last time we saw Freddie Peralta, he was in a Brewers uniform looking to clinch the division series against the Cubs in game 4. Cubs scored 3 runs on 3 hits in 4 innings to move the series back to Milwaukee, with the Cubs faithful cheering Freddie the entire time he was out there. But now he's playing for the Mets. He's 1-1 with a 3.86 ERA and 4 starts with 25 Ks and 21 innings pitched. Not a surprise, big strikeout pitcher. 3 starts ago against St. Louis, he got no decision. He only gave up 1 run, 3 hits, 2 walks, 7 Ks, and 5 1/3. April 7th versus Arizona, he got the no decision, gave up 3 runs on 3 hits, 3 walks, 5 Ks, and only 4 2/3 innings. And the last start, April 12th, he took the loss, but it was a hard luck loss. 1 run on 4 hits, 3 walks, 6 Ks, 6 innings pitch. Peralta's 9-3 lifetime against the Cubs in 22 games, 17 starts with a 3.21 ERA. Peralta was 3-1 in the regular season in 4 starts against the Cubs with a 3.43 ERA. I was at a game that he lost in Milwaukee in the regular season, so hopefully that happens again. But he has really dominated this Cubs team, which is slashing 171, 267, 346 against him. Dansby's 225 against Freddie, Seiya 328, Nico's 6 for 33. Hap is 4 for 37. But PCA is 5 for 16 with the home run and 3 RBI against Freddie. So maybe Pete gets going, right?
Fingers crossed.
On the other side, Jamison Tyone, 0-1 with a 4.86 ERA and 3 starts with 17 strikeouts and 16 2/3 innings. 3.31 against the Angels, got no decision and 4 2/3 scoreless innings, 2 hits, 4 walks, 3 Ks. The wind was blowing in that game. It's going to be blowing in for this game, so I'm hoping that helps. 4-6 against Tampa. He took the loss, 4 runs, 3 earned, 7 hits, no walks, 4 Ks, 2 home runs in 6 innings. And then on the 12th against Pittsburgh, you got no decision. Miraculously, the Cubs came back on this one. He gave up 6 runs they lost this one, but he gave up 6 runs on 6 hits, 2 walks, 10 Ks, 3 home runs. No, they did come back on that game. So that was a miracle. But J-Mo is 4-1 in his career against the Mets with a 2.78 ERA and 7 starts. He faced the Mets, though, last season, didn't go well. 6 runs, 5 earned, 9 hits, 4 home runs, 1 walk, 4 Ks. So the Mets slash 281, 292, 541 against J-Mo. Look out for Jorge Polanco, 6 for 9. Tommy Pham, 9 for 29. And Bo Bichette is 9 for 24. But Lindor is only 3 for 16. Tyone features a 4-seamer, a cutter, a change, a sweeper, and a curve. Game 3 on Sunday. The Cubs finally face a lefty, David Peterson versus Colin Ray. Peterson is 30-year-old lefty who's 0-3 with a 6.41 ERA and 4 starts. 21 strikeouts in 19 2/3 innings. His last 3 starts, Dustin, has been very bumpy. April 2nd against San Fran, he got the loss, 5 runs, 9 hits, 2 walks, 5 Ks, and 4 1/3. April 8th against the D-backs, he gave up 5 runs, 6 hits, 2 walks, 6 Ks, and 5 innings pitched. And against the Dodgers on April 13th, he gave up 4 runs, 5 hits, 4 walks, 7 Ks, 5 innings. So he's going about 4 or 5 innings and giving up 4 or 5 runs every time he's going out there. He's 1-2 lifetime against the Cubs in 6 starts with a 6.86 ERA. He made 1 start against the Cubs last season. He got knocked out in the 2nd inning, giving up 5 runs. The Cubs slash 298, 411, 404 against Peterson. Nico hits Peterson well. He's 4 for 5. Ian's only 2 for 10, and Dansby's 3 for 18 against Peterson. Peterson's an extreme ground ball pitcher who primarily uses his sinker, a 4-seamer, and against lefties, he'll use a slider. On the other side, Colin Ray, 35-year-old righty swingman, 2-0 with a 3.63 ERA in 4 games. He's only has 1 start with 15 strikeouts and 17 1/3 innings pitched. He was called into duty when Cade Horton got injured in Cleveland. He gave up 1 run, 1 walk, 4 Ks, and 3 1/3 innings pitched. His first start was against Tampa. He gave up 1 run on 2 hits, 2 walks, 2 Ks, and 5 innings. And then, as you did not like, he had an opener start the game against Philly. Gave up 3-run home run in the second to Edmundo Sosa, but retired 16 of the last 17 hitters he faced to pick up the win. Ray is 3-1 lifetime against the Mets with a 2.88 ERA and 4 starts. He did not face the Mets last season, but they slashed 362, 415, 489 against him. Francisco Alvarez is 3 for 5 against him, and Francisco Lindor 3 for 9 with 3 RBIs. Ray features a 4-seamer, split finger, and slider. But Dustin will make our predictions in the next segment. You got to like the Cubs' chances in this 3-game series.
And those the Mets coming in on an 8-game losing streak, which we've talked about. This is the Fly the W podcast. It's episode 353. The Bats come alive in Philly against those Phillies. And we are proud to be part of the Blue Wire Network, Crowley. And don't forget to listen. Don't forget to download, review, subscribe, leave a 5-star review. Email us at crawleysclubhouse@gmail.com. And don't forget, you can watch on the Crawley's Clubhouse YouTube page. It's time for odds and ends, looking at news from our Cubbies and from around the league. Got power rankings, huh? Power rankings.
Well, Dustin, like I said, we're almost at 20 games, and I figured it would be good time to kind of pull out the power rankings and see where the Cubs are. And this is off The Athletic, and it's from 2 days ago. So it doesn't have their last couple starts in the against the Phillies. But they still had the Cubs in the top 10. They had, obviously, you know who number 1 is, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Dodgers number 1, Yankees 2, Braves 3. You got the Mariners 4, Milwaukee Brewers at 5, Phillies at 6. You have the Padres at 7th, and you have the Cubs tied for 8. So again, in the top 10 still, Detroit Tigers are tied with, and then the New York Mets are actually 10th. Now, again, they don't have the last couple losses, but with The Athletic, they're not going to, again, panic over small sample sizes. They actually have the Pirates in 11th, and they've been climbing a lot. So interesting to kind of watch to see how these power rankings all work out as we kind of take a look at this.
Are you surprised at those rankings? I mean, I'm really surprised with the one. What jumps off the page at you with those power rankings? For me, it's the Braves. The start they're off to, considering the injuries that they've had, I am super impressed they are where they're at right now.
Yeah. I mean, the Braves are doing really good. Matt Olson's looking good. Drake Baldwin, you remember last year was Rookie of the Year. But you know, they've been, you know, again, good hot start. See if they can keep it all season. Don't know. But you know, I like I said, I'm still kind of just watching this and seeing how this develops. You know, as we move forward to the season. But Dustin, we do have a whole ton of roster moves, and we got to get to this because it's not good. A lot of these roster moves were on Tuesday. Ethan Roberts, 50-day IL. He was pitching well. Charlie Barnes sent back. Luke Little up. Ryan Rowlandson up. So we got a big mess going on here as far as injuries are concerned. And like I said, the only way that I think that the Mets take the series from the Cubs is because of issues in the bullpen. This is what Craig had to say about the bullpen.
At this point, we just get reinforcements. You know, it's happening at a rate which is not good. It's happening to all right-handed pitchers, and so that's why we're with a lot of lefties right now. And we've had some stuff happen in AAA with some, you know, expected reinforcements too. So that's kind of how you get to this bullpen constitution. This is not a strategy against the Phillies or anything like that. This is we're at kind of able bodies right now.
That doesn't sound
good. Able bodies.
So we know Matthew Boyd is on the IL, Jordan Wicks on the IL, relief pitchers, righties, Phil Maton, Hunter Harvey, Ethan Roberts, all righties, starter Cade Horton, righty Porter Hodge, who hasn't started this year. We're still waiting on Justin Steele. Shelby Miller was never really expected to pitch, or if he does, it would be at the end of the season. Dustin, we talked about Matt Boyd. He did make a start today. Jason Kemp, AAA, our guy. He went 3 2/3 innings through 64, his 46 struck out 6, including the last he faced 3 runs in the. He threw 3 four-seam ups or four-seam fast, 16, 14, 8 curves. So what I'm looking at here, you can kind of test pitches, right? And so you're looking at looking at anything much like spring training game where you are trying to just kind of test things out, kind of look under the hood and see what's happening. And so it sounds okay to me. I'm hoping, you know, things go better because this is getting bizarre, Dustin. Here is what happened to Ethan Roberts, my buddy. Here's what Craig Counsell had to say.
Unfortunately, Ethan, before the game yesterday, just had a accident, and a vent fell. He cut his hand trying to not let it hit his leg.
So a vent fell when he was working out, and he tried to stop it with his hand, and so it wouldn't hit his legs, and now he's on the IL. I'm looking here, Dustin, and there are some weird injuries in Cubs history. When you take a look, do you remember the Sammy Sosa sneeze?
Yeah, that was his
he went on the
right?
IL. Yeah, Kerry Wood slipped out of a hot tub. That was a bizarre one. I mean, there's just been Brandon Morrow injured himself putting on his pants. There was one, I think it was Jose Cardinal, slept on an eyelid weird. There's just been a whole list of weird Cubs injuries, and it sucks because I think Ethan Roberts was looking really good. And so, again, they're going to have to call lefties up. Another guy that I'm really hoping the best for is Luke Little. Here's what Craig had to say about Luke.
Well, I mean, I think we know the story with Luke. I mean, it's strikes. I mean, he's got to throw strikes. And there's not much to say past that. You know, he's got to throw strikes. And I think he's, you know, it's some guys struggle, they have to add velocity, or some guys they have to get another pitch. He's got the repertoire, he's got the arsenal, he's got the velocity. But at times he's a big man, and a lot of time the thing that the big people in this game often work with is being consistent with their mechanics. That's just a product of the gift of size. Can also be that mechanics become a little more difficult.
I mean, that's true for hitters and pitchers. You know what I mean? When you got a really big guy, sometimes they have mechanical issues as far, that's concerned about Kevin Alcantara, those type of things. But Jackson Wiggins also injured on the IL in the minor league. So there's a lot of guys in the minor leagues injured. There's a lot of guys in the major league injured. The one that really, though, just crushes me, Dustin, he's been on this podcast. Porter Hodge is done for the year. He is going to have Tommy John surgery, so this is where we're at again. And so now you lose another guy. And for me, Dustin, I always felt like Porter Hodge was going to be like this X factor that was going to come into the bullpen and really kind of, take control, but that ain't going to be this year. So we don't know again what kind of Tommy John, if they're just going to stabilize it or if they have to replace a tendon or something, but that's where we are now. But Jed Hoyer talked to the media about what happened with Porter Hodge being out for the season and this whole litany of injuries here.
Yeah, I think my process is probably very similar with both guys, where like you just immediately you feel sorry for the player, but then this process like, okay, who's up next? And you kind of have to move on quickly mentally. This kind of sounds cold-hearted, but like that's the nature of the job, that we've had a lot of injuries early on, but the season goes on, the games go on, and you have to find replacements. And sometimes I look at it as an opportunity that maybe a guy steps up that you didn't expect, and then when everyone gets healthy, all of a sudden you have another reliever you weren't counting on. And a couple of years ago we were really banged up, and Porter and Luke Little stepped up, and Porter ended up really helping us at the end of that year and the beginning of last year. So it can be an opportunity, but it's certainly been a trying time for us from an injury standpoint, and we just have to fight through it and try to get healthy.
So Dustin, again, he brought up guys that came up and helped that weren't expected, like Porter Hodge himself and other players that have done that as well in this Cubs. But, with Porter Hodge, and then we had Cade Horton, and then we had Justin Steele, Jed was asked, are they going to look into, is there something going on organizationally that's causing these arm injuries?
Yeah, I think you have to take a look, just because you wouldn't be doing your job if you didn't. I think, a lot of guys go down these days. Guys get hurt. Guys throw so unbelievably hard. And but yeah, of course, we'll do a deep dive and see if there's a commonality to the injuries. I feel like last couple of years coming out of spring training, we haven't had these issues, and then all of a sudden this year, just we're 17 games in, and we have this many injuries. So I certainly hope the pace slows, and hopefully we can. I know you talked to Craig about the injuries. Hopefully we can. Get some of these guys back and start the process of kind of rebuilding them.
All right. Do you think this is, what do you think? Fluky
or coincidence? But I think what he said that really sticks out is that these guys are throwing so hard, Crowley. They throw, excuse me, it's violent, right? What they do with their arm is not normal. And they've been doing it for how long? Right. How long? It's not like they just started doing this when the Cubs got a hold of them. They've been doing it their whole life, since a dad or a coach or an uncle or a grandpa or a mom or whoever figured out that this kid had a talent in their right arm in this case. Okay. They've been throwing hard for a long time. And it almost seemed like it was part of the process, a badge of honor, if you will, that you needed to get the Tommy John, right? The Tommy John was almost like, I did it. I'm such a hard throwing pitcher that I got the Tommy John. And now I'm going to get another Tommy John, right? I'm going to get another Tommy John, but now I'm going to be set for life. And it's almost like sometimes it's like you got to get two Tommy Johns to really get yourself to where you want to be as far as a starting pitcher.
And it's not just velocity that's increased, because Dustin, when you and I were going, following baseball in the 80s and 90s, like, God, if you saw anyone throw like 98, 99, that was impressive. Now everybody's got like 4 or 5 guys like that in the bullpen. It's not even that big of a deal anymore. Right. Now it's like, oh, you don't throw 100? It's
Correct.
like that. And not only that, the amount of spin that they throw is crazier than ever. So that combination, I mean, I don't know. I hope that Jed looks into it. But the question was brought up about trades, and Jed's going to kind of shoot it down, and for logical reasons.
Those are hard. I mean, they're, usually those are assignment clauses or guys get DFA'd or something like that. People aren't going to trade guys very willingly at this point. So usually they're trading guys that they need to trade, so to speak. But yeah, I mean, Tyson Miller and Paul Moran were both examples of that, and they really helped us. And, we'll certainly be looking for guys like that for sure.
So that, no one's trading anyone good right now. Everyone's still in it, right? And so you look at guys that like, right. Dylan Carlson is a guy that, why was he DFA'd? Well, it wasn't because he was good. It just didn't have room for him on the roster. So you're trying to pick up guys like that, like Drew Pomerantz, who didn't have any room on the Mariners roster, like Tyson Miller. Those are guys that just, the last guys on the roster that maybe you can turn around and kind of flip. But Dustin, not a trade. How about this report from your guy, Kenny Rosenthal? Cubs and Padres among the teams interested in Lucas Giolito. PJ Mooney and Sahad Sharma were on there.
No surprise there. That's a good thing, I think. And of course, there's going to be competition for him, right? The agent's going to set it up that there's a couple teams that want him to try to drive that price and drive that guarantee. So we'll see. But I think as long as you stay a 1 year deal, I wouldn't give him 2. I wouldn't give him 3. I give him a 1 year prove it deal. Let's go.
That's exactly why they didn't sign, though. You know what I mean? To be in this situation where guys start going down and teams start getting desperate, you can start to do that. Maybe the Cubs don't, but someone might be able to. And then, I just, like I said, I'm curious to see how they're going to address the bullpen internally, externally, but hopefully some of these guys do get back sooner rather than later.
Absolutely. We want to see guys back. We wish all those guys nothing but the best. Obviously, we'll see what ends up happening with Porter Hodge. Programming note, if you're listening live, we've got Tommy Hotovy tomorrow at 7:25. So some of this stuff will be talked about as well during that. All right. Is it prediction time, Crowley? Have we gotten to that point in the podcast?
It is time to make our predictions, Dustin. What are you feeling?
All right,
just to go over this. Game 1 Friday, Kodai Senga versus Edward Cabrera. Game 2 Saturday, 1:20, Freddie Peralta, Jameson Taillon. Game 3 Sunday, 1:20, David Peterson versus Colin Ray.
Now, if I just looked at this on paper, Crowley, if I hadn't known that they've lost 8 in a row, if I hadn't known that the offense is struggling, if I didn't know that Mr. almost highest paid player in baseball won't be with the team in Chicago, I might be like, ooh, wow, I don't know. I think they win 2 out of 3. And I'm curious if they've gotten over the Freddie Peralta, kryptonite, right? Freddie Peralta's been kicking their ass for a long time. So I guess that's the game I'm most worried about. So I'll say they win the series. I got to do that at home.
See, Dustin, I'm proud of you. I thought you were going to go sweep. And I was like, please, is he going to say sweep? Is he going to say sweep? It is really hard to sweep a team. And not only that, to get 3 sweeps in a row would be, I think I would panic this early if I'm a Mets fan and you just got swept 3 series in a row. I got the Cubs winning game 1 and 3 on Sunday, losing game 2 Saturday, but at least I'll get my Ron Santo bobblehead.
So we are in lockstep on that one. That is a wrap. Don't forget to listen, down the review, subscribe to the Fly the W podcast. You can email us your thoughts or your questions, Crawley's Clubhouse, gmail.com. And you can watch us by subscribing to the Crawley's Clubhouse YouTube channel. Crawley, enjoy the game. Good luck with the bobblehead, and we'll talk soon.
Absolutely. And if you're going to be out at the ballpark on Saturday, come by and say hi. Would love to see everybody. I'll be there nice and early, waiting for that bobblehead. Let's make it 3 sweeps in a row. Go Cubs.